yeah, I'll charge you $650 for it US. So I went on the website and had a look. To buy that kit for the one that it was supported was $1,800. So he's practically giving away this board, and he's building us an extra cable room, and he wrote us a set of instructions for it on how to fit it to this old mount that it wasn't supported. So a month or two later, through onto my desk arrives a package full of exciting things. They sent us the new control board. Now this control board, which is that there, this is exactly the same as the one that's in the brand new mount that's here, the ME2 mount. It's also exactly the same as the one that we've just recently bought to go on the Zeiss. So this 10-year-old mount gets the most recent electronics possible for a third of the cost. We certainly didn't pay $650 for the board that we're putting on the Zeiss, I can tell you. They sent us a new side panel that they'd machined a nice slot to fit the panel in. They specially wrote us some instructions on how to install the cable looms because they were all different to what was in the normal instructions. They made us up some special cable looms to fit that mount that don't exist, they don't sell them. This is how you look after your customers. This is a mount that's been out of warranty for 10 years, and they're giving us a huge discount and sending us the latest stuff and helping us out like you wouldn't believe. But this is a company that you wouldn't mind giving money to. And in fact, the support we got from this was actually a huge factor in the decision to use Software Bisque as the drive electronics for the Zeiss. So it works, you know, good customer service really does matter. So the mount came back to my garage, and Jonathan and Tony and I started ripping bits off it. Now, it was quite exciting because we didn't really have to be careful anymore because we knew that just about everything except the motors was going in the bin. So that was quite fun, pulling all the sides off, working out what had happened. It was interesting to have a look, not having to be quite as careful at the repairs that we'd done previously when the mount was here. Got into the side of it. You can see that's how you're supposed to remove the side, and you can get to everything nicely. I struggled for an hour trying to get down the top at the end. One thing we did discover, and we're not certain, but we think it might have contributed to our zone of death issue, and we think it could have possibly contributed to the failure of the board. Inside, the wires that go up to the motors go through a hole in the tube here. And what we discovered is that a lot of these wires had started to get damaged. So the insulation was damaged, the inner insulation was slightly damaged. So it's reasonably possible that our problems were caused just by one of those shorting out of the casing, and we didn't realize. So good thing that we were pulling it apart completely. So yeah, some more disassembly photos. That was the connector there that had broken originally. That got replaced. Tony and Jonathan said, well, since we've got it off, let's give it a good paint. It's looking a little bit dull. So I think that's Tony with the wet and dry, sanding down the mount. That's all the panels hanging up in the garage, ready for paint. And we gave it a good spring clean, gave it a nice coat of matte black paint. I turned my attention to that hole those wires went through. Now, we decided that we were putting more wires through the mount because we wanted to have USB going through the mount, we wanted to have power going through the mount, so we didn't have a big cable snake that we had there. So I set about with my Dremel and spent a good hour with my Dremel and various sanding attachments, putting a nice bevel on the edge of here. It's maybe not precision machining, but it was certainly smoother and wouldn't cut into the cable. I mean, it really was sharp. If you put your fingers on the vacuum on it, really was sharp. It's not surprising it damaged the cable. Putting it back together, you can see how many more cables we put through this thing than were in there originally. We put power and data, and there were the motor control cables and USB cables. So it was pretty tight in there, but we managed to get them all to fit. Put all the boards in, wired it all up, and no idea whether this thing was going to work when we plugged it together at all, but confident in these instructions that were written specially for us. Some of the wires we put through didn't come with, I think, I'll look at the photo later, but just jump back a little bit. One of the things that you get here, you can't really see it in that photo, is a panel with a whole bunch of connectors in it for 12 volts and 5 volts, and you can plug the camera power supply in. It didn't have anything for the network cables that we use for serial connectors, and it didn't have anything for the additional power we put in. So I 3D printed a little enclosure to go on the bottom, keeping everything looking neat. And then we put it back together. So what you can see, what's different to the old one, so you can see that all the wires for the camera, none of them snake down to the floor anymore, so they all just plug in here, which keeps everything much tidier. So Huge upgrade to the map. We got it back up and running. It did work when we turned it on. I had to contact Beth just one more time for some setting help to get it working, but it worked straight off. The upgrade just worked. And we had the scope off a few times, so we collated it and we cleaned the corrector plate and got ready to start to use this thing. What we found is after the work we've done collimating and cleaning it, we were now getting a much better focus. This is one of our focus runs we did. So we've got an electronic focuser, so we can do you can set off doing a process which will work out what the focus is at different focus positions and give you the best one. Because we were going to do microlensing, so I'm not going to talk too much about microlensing, probably going on a bit anyway, but we needed to have good quality images. This was our first season doing microlensing. Basically it involves taking a picture of that bit of sky, we get given that and some coordinates, and then working out, you've got to kind of also work out, Grant will say you don't, but I like to anyway, you've got to work out whether you're pointing at the right thing. So can anybody work out where those stars are in this?
Quite a bit hard. Yeah. I think central right.
There you go.
No.
Since you right in the middle, it was a bit of a fake thing because I'd already aligned that one with it right in the middle. But yeah, so we started taking images of these and submitted these to Ohio State University where they're potentially used in research projects. We were capturing real data, so we were really excited. And whatever happens when we're really excited is Murphy comes along. So we had issues with dewing, again, even with the dew strap on. Fortunately, we had a dew shield that Dave Morehouse had built, and that solved that problem. Then we had issues with icing and frosting. So the camera's cooled. The camera's got a thermoelectric cooler in, and we cool it to -20. Now, if that camera's not perfectly dry inside, then you get these halos around the stars. We had to, so it has a little plug of desiccant in it. So Jonathan had to do the cooking and cook this plug. We managed to fix that one. Then, of course, the weather. So, yeah, clouds, clouds, rain, clouds, clouds. And that doesn't even mention the fact that our computer in the dome, the brand new one, failed. I got a message from Jonathan saying, computer stopped working. Turns out I got there the day after and the computer worked perfectly. But a blown LED had caused the power supply to freak out. We had internet failure. Our internet to the observatory was provided down a wire going along a fence line. And it broke many times. But this time it broke and couldn't be repaired. And we eventually had to replace that with a 4G router. We had network failures as our network switch decided to die one night when Jonathan was out there observing and suddenly couldn't connect the two computers together. Then we had a power cut that required an electrician to come out, and that took another 3 weeks to go. And we had focusing issues and the dome rotation. The dome still wouldn't rotate into the telescope. With all that though, we had a really good season. This is 2017, year before last, and we did a whole lot of microlensing images, microlensing targets. We got a whole lot of data. We even, working with Grant, started to learn how to get our own light curves off the data, which is really cool. So this shows the target, that's this one here, that star there. That shows either 2 or 4 nights where that star is getting brighter, and we can see it getting brighter over the course of a night. And this is from our own data. It's really exciting to be able to see that something's happening on your own data. And you can imagine this is going in a curve, so you can imagine it comes down here a few days later. So with all the setbacks, it was really cool. We were getting data. We just actually learned in the last 2 weeks that this one, so this image and this data, is actually being used in a real scientific paper, which is going to be published sometime in the next couple of weeks or so. So we get credit in a scientific paper for providing data for it and hopefully helping out with that research. Really cool. So, you know, it makes it worthwhile. All of the challenges, it really makes it worthwhile. We weren't happy with the dome though. Another one of Murphy's little involvements with us is this rim around the outside. We're slewing it around one day and there was a huge cracking, clunking noise, and this thing, fiberglass rim around the outside was cracking. The dome was looking terrible. So remember the guy who was cutting the window out, the neighbour, Peter McLeod? Turns out he's still a good builder and he's still our neighbour and he's still a really good neighbour. So he gave us a really good rate to make the dome look like that. So it's looking awesome now. We were keen to try out, well, what are we going to do next? This old C14, it's 40 years old. The mirror needs re-illuminizing, the corrector plate needs cleaning inside and out. We were talking about how do we do that, what do we want to do? We said, what are our next options going to be? Turns out that Andrew had a good option for us. So I work for Astron's as well, most of you will know. But we had a 12-inch Ritchie creation scope that had a factory defect from it, but we got the parts to fix it. Once we fixed it, we needed to test it. So Jonathan and I said, have we got a deal for you? And that's usually Andrew's line. We decided we could test it. So we did the servicing for it. We had to basically take the mirror out of one mirror cell, put it in another one, and then we could put it on there. So now we had a cool looking telescope on there, but a smaller aperture, only 12 inch versus 40 inches. So we had to test it out though. So pretty pictures is the way to go. We also bought a cool color CMOS camera for this. So we got some really cool pictures from this. And another one at the range. Now these look pretty good, but we hadn't even collimated it at that point. So this was straight me picking the mirror up and roughly throwing it in the mirror cell. So I spent the night collimating it, and then it improved drastically. This projector doesn't do it justice, but really, really sharp images. Better than we'd seen from the C14, even though the aperture was less. Here's another one. This is the Eagle Nebula. Some great, fantastic images. Because it's an RC, aesthetically, you get the nice diffraction spikes. Which just look. The other part about it, though, is what we were really interested in, because whilst we want to do the pretty picture stuff at Keumu, we really want to do the science stuff. So we wanted to see how did this scope work for the science targets. So we used it for oh, sorry, you were taking a photo. I'll go back. Yeah. I'm happy to share the slides anyway, so if people want the slides. So we gave it a go for microlensing, and we were blown away. It worked brilliant. We had no problems at all. In fact, this 12-inch scope was working better than our 14-inch scope was, which we sort of expected. So we started saying to the council, we'd love to get, 12-inch seems a bit small, we don't want to go down, we want to get a 14-inch scope. Grant said to us, no, you don't want a 14-inch scope, you want a 16-inch scope. Yes. And we said, but the mount won't carry it. And he said, of course it will. So, staring Murphy straight in the face this time as we went against common sense, we went out and bought a 16-inch RC scope, the big brother of that. Notice how the place has got a bit overgrown though. So this is just before Christmas, and unfortunately some of our regular members hadn't been making it along, so some of them have been doing that for the lawns, so never knows full what our lawns look like at this point.
I should point out this telescope was purchased using.
It's part of the story.
I'll get to it.
So fortunately, Alistair Emerson has got a big car because someone just fit it.
Well, Alistair told me he had a big car to a couple of telescopes.
Yeah, well that's right. And we told him he might need a bigger car if we ever upgrade. We were a bit nervous. Could we get this beast up into the dome because it's quite a small gap to get it up? But yeah, it went through fine, and we got the scope on the mount. And yeah, so as Bill was about to say, the really important thing about this is when we talked about the scope, we were actually talking about, wouldn't it be great to have a legacy for some of our old members? Now, we occasionally get requested money in people's wills when they've unfortunately passed on. And that happened to a couple who met through astronomy and were lifelong members, well, not quite lifelong, but they were very, very long-term members of the society, Barry and Trixie Menzies. So they both died within about a year of each other, tragically. And they both actually provided bequests to the society. And we thought, wouldn't it be great to honour the memory of people who loved, the couple who loved astronomy, to actually have something that will hopefully keep going and we'll have lots and lots of people over the years using this equipment to actually get great images, to do science work, to get other people excited in astronomy. So this scope is now called the Menzies scope, and we're organising a plaque on there to commemorate Barry and Trixie Menzies, who put so much into the society. So I mean, I think that's great, and I think they would love to have known that we were going to do something like that with the money that they provided. So we got it set up, we put our camera on there. We did have a problem though, because Murphy's always there, that we didn't have enough counterweights. Because as predicted, this scope is a lot heavier than the mount would normally take. So we had to acquire some more counterweights. So we worked on that. While we worked on that, all of that overgrown grass that you saw on the other ones, well, Niven decided he would help us one weekend, and Grant did. And we went out there armed with brush cutters and chainsaws and lawnmowers, and we gave the place a huge cleanup. So the grass was literally this high all the way around it. So thanks a lot to Neville and Graham particularly for that, and Jonathan, and Alistair Emerson, who brought the scope in his Jeep, also gave us a whole lot of tools to work with. And then we also said we should get all the junk out of the observatory, because this observatory has been collecting junk for 20 years, and a lot of it was still there. So that's the pile of junk that we managed to get out of there on Sunday afternoon. What's interesting about this, and the reason I show it, is we didn't really know what they were when we were throwing these things in a pile, and we didn't keep hold of them, we did throw them away, but that square piece of wood there behind there, that was the backboard of that Cassegrain telescope. And that tube that you can just see sticking out there, that was the baffle tube going up the middle. So, yeah, we kind of lost some history, but nah, we got a brand new 16-inch scope because of that stuff. So, yeah, so it's now all nice and tidy. One of the other things that we've done is we do have members who leave stuff there, so we've installed a set of lockers so that people can keep their stuff safe. So quite a lot of people will leave eyepieces or even just a warm jersey and leave that out at the observatory. We went for lockers. I was getting some shelves or storage boxes, but we went for lockers because being in the country, being on a farm, we do get the odd little friend from time to time. So it is important. So we also tidied out the observing area. There used to be bunk beds in this space. Now Jonathan and I were too scared to go near these bunk beds, knowing these guys were. So we tore those out, and we shouldn't be sleeping anyway. You should be observing if you're going to be out there. There is a lazy boy there you can kick back on. So we tidied all of that up. I've got 2 new computers that are going to go out there.
In 1972, when I was up there,
Yeah.
there was no bunk beds.
Well, there wouldn't have been observatory there. It was only built in 1978.
Well, I was there when it first opened.
But in 1978 it was built.
There's-
I have that
there
on
was
reliable
no-
authority.
There's no bunk beds then.
No, I don't think that part of the building existed either. Anyway,
Oh,
I'm nearly finished. I'm nearly finished.
Okay, that's all right.
Because this is the most important thing. Well, for me anyway. I'm excited about it. You guys might not. You might as well shut up because we're talking for 54 minutes. But yesterday we went up there and we got the counterweights. And we got the new counterweights put on, and we got the whole scope balanced. Now these are really professional counterweights that we had to import from Kmart on the shore. They're actually dumbbell weights that Tim the Toosh kindly machined out for us and we put on them. But they work. We balanced it, we tested it, it works, the mount has no problem slewing. I have to say that Grant was right, and don't say that lightly. And even more importantly, this dome rotation that we've been banging our heads against for literally 4 years. Just before Christmas, Tony and I were talking about this, and we were wondering about these boards. Now, these boards are quite hard to get. You only get them in the UK, and the main seller of these, well, you get them in Europe. The main seller of these in the UK was going out of business. I got on the phone to my sister and said, "Hey, sis, Macklin, close to you, it's going out of business. Yeah. Would you mind popping down there and buying a couple of these boards that in the closing down sale?" So she did, and she sent them across. Now, Tony and I procrastinated for a couple of months about getting these boards built, but I built one a few months ago, and I installed it yesterday, and that's a new version of that board. And I put a little rubber tire on this wheel here to make sure that it had good contact with it. And it works. 4 years later, the dome now tracks a telescope. So if you point at a star, the dome will turn to the right place, and it's awesome. So what's the future? So the future is first light for the telescope. Now I got it working yesterday, and you've seen the weather forecast for the next 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we want more people using Keumu, and that includes all you guys. If any of you guys live out west, it's a great site to go observing it. Now, there's padlocks and things like that, which makes it complicated. We're going to put pin-coded padlocks so that we can give out this code to people, so it makes it easy. You don't have keys to lose. We don't have to get keys cut. We want people using the site. Now, not necessarily using the dome there, but if you are wanting to use that, then we're really excited. We want to train you how to use it, and we want more people who can use it. We've got, like I say, we've got lockers out there to store your stuff there. There's enough space to keep your telescope there. It's a great dark sky. If you are interested, then let Jonathan or I know, and come out when we're out there and have a go at the site. Have a look.
It's a good flat area there to set
Yeah.
up your own gear. I go out there regularly, and unfortunately I'm usually the only person there. And
Yeah.
I've taken quite a few astro photos there. I can set up on the flat area.
So don't wait for our dark sky nights, because 9 times out of 10 it's raining anyway. Come out to Keumu if it's just, alright, 6 times out of 10. If it's dry, come out to Keumu. and you can set your gear up. We're going to make it easy to get in and out of there. We want to automate the shutter on the dome so that we can potentially remotely operate the big scope, the Menzies scope. And we're talking about what do we do next? Is the camera that's on that's quite old, will we get better performance with another camera? But anyway, thank you very much. That's the story of Keumu, and I'll take any questions if you like. Mr. Burns.
I don't know how many people recognised the desk in that office.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right.
When the library here was modified, there wasn't room for that desk. And nobody knew what to do with it, and it sat in the corridor for a couple of weeks. And then I discovered it in the rubbish bin. And I thought, this is too good for the rubbish bin. I got a friend of mine in a trailer and I took it home. And it's spent a year hiding behind
Thanks, Dan.
the curtains in the corner of my lounge, where you couldn't see it. And then we worked it out that if we took away the bunk beds, it would fit there. And Alistair Emerson, with his big vehicle, managed to get that whole desktop in there and took it out to Keumu. And Alistair and I tried to put it together and failed. So we gave up and went away, and I think Steve, you
Jonathan and I put it together.
yeah, you guys put it together, and there it is. So that's the desk from the
The
original
library.
control room here, which is why it works so well with all that other equipment that came from here. The computers know what to do.
I recognise the red paint, which would still be a Dave Morehouse bought it on a really cheap sale.
Oh, okay.
Haven't I painted that?
That would have been 2010 as well, looking at photos. There's a lot happened in 2010.
Any knowledge and possibility of any use running another astronomy workshop or something out there to get people out there?
I think it'd be great. I mean, I love people. I'd be happy to do a daytime and into an evening if you know, if people are interested. We can talk about what our workflow is, how we work with the dome, what equipment we use. And I know that's what Dave used to do. Although Dave used to make everybody who went on his little courses completely strip down his mount and put it back together. I don't want anybody stripping down our mount. Stay in one piece because there's too many things to go wrong. But certainly, yeah, I think it'd be a great idea to have a workshop out there if any people are keen to see how we're doing the stuff that we're doing. Give us some ideas on what we could be doing better, then yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea.
I take it you haven't had a chance to do a pointing model.
It's raining.
Yeah.
Really
So
working
it's
yesterday.
only sort of got operational, and because you really have to have the dome sync to do that comfortably, don't you?
Well, we did full pointing model, moving the dome manually. So yeah, it's not too challenging to do. You just got to sit in the dome the whole time.
Yeah.
But now we've got the dome slab. Now, it's not 100%. It's probably 92%. But it was getting a little bit late and a little bit dark yesterday. But getting it working was really exciting. I mean, it has been literally 4 years of trying to get that damn thing working and then giving up so many times. So yeah, excited for that.
That previous circuit board had corroded so much that I replaced several integrated circuits because the leads had corroded through and the circuits and the resistors were falling off the board. There was like pieces missing.
You can
Just
see why.
like corroded through.
You still got the dehumidifier on the dome?
Oh yeah, I didn't take a photo of that. I was it's a little bit remiss of me because Jonathan actually told me to take a photo of the dehumidifier yesterday, and I completely forgot. Go back to one of the early pictures, the one with my. Oh no, it's not on there.
You can see it screwed on the wall.
Oh, there you go. That's how it was when we found it, when I started working there in 2014. So just here, normally, that's where the part point for the shutter is. So if it's going to leak, that's where it's going to leak, right on top of that board. Yeah. So this little black part there, which contains the sensors, that the legs are corroded through, and a lot of these components here are corroded
Those
through as
sensors
well.
had actually fallen off,
Yeah.
corroded through.
So it's actually not that surprising that we're having trouble when you consider the amount of rebuilding that Tony did on that and the amount of work he did. But great news that it's moving on.
New circuit board is in a container, it's not actually sealed, but it's at least protected.
Yeah, I mean, it's not sealed at the bottom, but it is protected from the top, so it is waterproof on here, and it is open at the bottom. It's actually a good thing because it'll breathe then, if any moisture does get in there.
Yeah. That old circuit board was actually there in 1978.
No, it wasn't. It was built in
I
the.
don't think.
It was installed in 2009.
Because it was electric motor, which,
It wasn't that one. You can see it was only copyright 2003, so I doubt that it was there in 1979. It was only designed 13 years after that. So actually that must have been later. Oh yeah, 2009, 2010 that was installed.
Yeah, Dave Morehouse installed it.
But it was a different motor, I suppose.
Oh yeah, it was a different motor. And there was, so in the 70s there was the John Orr scope that was in there, which had a motor on. So that might be the one that you're remembering.
Yeah, that's
the
the one.
original one. It's a 12-inch Maxitop. That's actually in the room down the back. And then there was another scope that I couldn't find the details of what it was. There was the 10-inch Meade LX200 that was put in there. That was replaced by the C14. The C14 was replaced by the 12-inch RC that we used last year, and now it's been replaced by the 16-inch RC. So we're really, really, really keen for the observatory to not fall into disuse again. So what we need is more members keen to come out there and do some work. If you've got ideas for things you want to observe, I mean, having a brand new 16-inch scope with a scientific grade CCD on, got to be exciting to some of you, because I know it's exciting to me.
So there's plenty more plans for doing more research?
Yeah, we're keen. We've done a few targets where obviously we've done the microlensing follow-up stuff, but there's not as much of that around as there used to be. We've done some CBA stuff, and we've done some, what was the other one we did? I think there's another one, wasn't there, at one stage? Oh, some stuff that Grant's working on that we've piggybacked on. So if anybody's got your own research programs that you're interested in, you need some observation, then let us know if you know people who do. Or if you're just really keen to get some deep sky images. I mean, you know, I'd sooner this scope be used on every dark night, even if we haven't got a science target to go to. You know? Cool. Any other questions?
What filters has the camera got now?
So it's still got visual filters. So one of the plans, and I talked about, we're thinking about whether that camera is the right camera, whether we do that. We've also talked about whether we put a second filter wheel on. I'm kind of hoping you upgrade yours and your other filter wheel goes available, because we do a similar thing to what you're doing with 2 filter wheels. So we've got RGB